You're listening to Around Comics. 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 Comics.
And you are listening to Around Comics episode 425. I'm Brian Salazar. With me as always, Christopher Niesman and Tom Caters, the ghost of Tom Caters. They showed up. If you're watching us live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, or any of those places, you'll see.
You look like the David Finch cut.
He's very
of Around Comics.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
It's okay.
Don't either.
All right.
I have to lower myself.
I got Pixel Book. I'm using my Pixel Book.
My opening joke to work. You need to tilt your camera up just a little bit.
Just sort of like that.
No, for Sal.
Chris, none of your jokes ever work.
I know they never work. But so yeah, I realized that we need to have the Star Trek Strange New Worlds open at every Around Comics episode. We just need to focus in on your super fucking pile high hair. Nope, down. There you go.
Oh yeah,
because you got that Anson Mount, like super high pile of hair going on.
He wishes he had hair as good as me.
It's pretty. Do you think they intentionally made every episode just a little bit higher with his hair?
Just subliminally.
His hair is just a little taller every
episode. I don't know. The one episode it was insanely tall.
Insanely tall.
And it hasn't gone back to that, I don't think, but it is pretty tall. It is pretty amazing. And it's very gray. It's what my hair hopefully will look like at some point when I'm older.
And so yes, his hair is what every aging male Star Trek fan wants their hair to look like.
Gray streaks through it, different shades of charcoal, and it's pretty fantastic. Mine, if I let mine get there, it would probably be white, permanently. But I put a little shoe polish in there for video. A little makeup on, a little shoe polish.
A little just for men.
The old Grecian formula. Put a little Grecian formula in there. I just mix everything together. Yeah. Whatever I can get to color my hair, I just mix it all together and, shoot, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, looks good. You have hair.
Yeah.
I get a haircut every morning.
Yeah.
Wow, what happened to you two?
Right. When we
you guys need to
so young, so virulent. Now we're so bald and beaten down.
I get a lot of whenever I'm at jiu-jitsu, not to talk about jiu-jitsu again, but whenever I'm at the gym, it's inevitably it comes up because there's a part of jiu-jitsu where it's you're not supposed to have an ego, but everybody's super competitive.
Sure. I call it passive aggressive competitive.
Yeah. So you're not supposed to be competitive, but everyone knows everyone is. So there's always like, okay, well, you're a purple belt, I'm a purple belt. How old are you? And how old are you? And whenever people ask me, and I'm like, well, I'm 51, and they're like, what the fuck? You don't, and there's part of me that's like, wow, that's really nice that I guess I look young for my age. But then I think, God damn, I'm 51. That must be really fucking old to get people to react that way.
Oh, damn. I'll give you the flip side. So in curling, senior starts at 50. And so 3 years ago, I'm 49 now, so I'm not even there. So 3 years ago, when I was 46, I had a guy at our club say, Chris, we need a second for our seniors team. Are you available in February? And I was like, motherfucker, I'm 46 years old. He's like, oh, sorry.
Oh, whoops.
Whoopsie. You guys are so old.
We're old, Tom. Are you 40 yet, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
You're 40. You're 40. Okay.
Oh,
well, you're old then. You're no longer young.
Yeah.
Did we know Tom in his 20s?
I think so, yeah. No? You were already in your 30s?
It was close. Early 30s.
It's close. Early 30s.
Oh, all right. We're all just a bunch of old
Yeah.
dudes now talking about kids books. That's what we do.
Old guys talking about old comics.
Old-
Tom, that's going to be our new show.
Old guys, old comics.
I'm ready to go. Chris,
Old guys, old comics, Old Spice. I think that's you got to get an Old Spice sponsor.
I mean, I think I'm in better shape than I was 13 years ago. So
right?
Oh, I definitely am. Yeah.
So,
Sal's in the best shape of his life. I'm still kind of an alcoholic, but I weigh less.
But, I mean,
I do drink more.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
fine.
You deserve it. You work hard for it. But as Sal was saying, this here is a comic book podcast, so we're going to talk about some comics. And I think we do we want to start off with the commonly read comic.
Well, I read everything you guys said.
Oh,
that you read.
okay.
So
because I know that
I didn't see what Chris said. I didn't see.
You just ignored his text.
I didn't see it.
I think I'm blocked.
Well, I had read the one before because
Yeah.
it came out a while ago.
Let's do a power bomb.
Yeah.
Had we? And I was just like, have we talked about it on the show?
I don't think so. I think you mentioned it, but I don't know that we ever actually talked about the book.
I wanted to talk about it, and I think we ran out of time. I really wanted to mention this book and talk about it because it's Daniel Warren Johnson, who we've pretty much loved everything that he's done at this point.
DWJ.
For those in the know, yeah.
Is he going by Mitchell now? Yeah. He's a Chicago guy, so that's. I hate that I don't live there because I would stalk him because his art is that awesome.
Good for him.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he dodged a bullet on that one.
But we've seen the Wonder Woman, Dead Earth. Then we did the Better Ray Bill miniseries. There's been some other projects out there, but this is, for me anyway, this is kind of the first creator-owned project. It's Image Comics, right? Do a power bomb, and it is about
you should really know this.
It's about a female wrestler and her family, and then it gets into legacy. And I don't want to give away the major plot points, but I'll just say, from reading the back matter, that this is something that he and his daughter kind of worked on together, and he wanted to do this project. And it's there's goofy parts of it, there's haha funny, there's like super awesome, like that's amazing looking, but there are some like seriously heart-wrenching, gut wrenching scenes in this comic. I was blown away by how memorable it was and how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did read it. I mean, I do love his. I love his
so
art.
Pretty.
It's very comic booky. Like it's tons of energy. I feel like
when I look at his, it's a lot of Nathan Fox. It's really inky.
But it's its own thing. I mean,
yeah, but his own thing.
Yeah. I always feel like it's kind of a disservice whenever an inky style we mention Paul Pope and other inky, Nathan Fox, like they didn't invent using a brush pen.
No, they did. But it's for me anyway. It's the first stuff that first relatable things that come to mind.
I honestly think about Kirby when I think of his work. When I look at his work, the energy that he creates, I imagine that is what people felt when Kirby first, when they first discovered Kirby, of like, really, and the kinetic difference in like, oh my God, the amount of energy that he conveys in a static panel of comics.
Amazing whenever you can use the foreground like that, right?
Yeah, I feel like he does a great job of that. But I didn't love this book. I didn't fall in love with it. Yeah, I don't know.
Wow, I really liked it. I thought it had a lot of heart.
It did, and maybe that's what it was.
I'm
heartless.
Is it
too much heart?
It,
yeah,
well,
it was too much.
Is it too on the nose? And that's a legitimate critique. Is that there's so many heartstring pulling moments in here that it's almost, I don't want to say formulaic, but it's like, okay, you're setting these situations up to make me feel like shit for these characters. years, right? To make me
Yeah,
feel
and
so
it
bad.
did feel a little kind of, I don't know, just not, I wouldn't say ham-fisted or anything, but just I didn't really fall for it, I guess. I just didn't
Yeah.
really care, and
You know, I got to the point where I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna dive in. It's like a bad rom-com, but you want to have fun, and if you just kind of let yourself enjoy it, it's good. I love the book, and that's I kind of let it. I
I think
realized
it-
I realized I was being manipulated, but then I just let myself willingly be manipulated. Does that make sense?
sure.
Yeah.
I think the other part of it is that I love his work so much, but he was drawing wrestling, which it's like I don't find wrestling that interesting, or like,
Really?
well, compared to giant dinosaur robots fighting one another, you know what I mean?
He does the wrestling really well, though.
Yeah, but he does giant dinosaur robots way better, and it's way cooler than wrestling. Like, wrestling is
I
not that
understand.
interesting to me at this point in my life. Is also, it's like So I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to say there was nothing wrong with the book.
Yeah.
For me personally, I just didn't get into it because of those things.
This
Not
might
that
be a love it or hate it book, or just
love it or hate.
love it, hate it, or
No in between.
whatever. Hmm?
No in between. Love it
No.
or hate it.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Get out of here if you like it. Pick a side.
It's like prison. You can't just float around in prison. You got to pick a gang to be affiliated with. You have to be a racist in prison. There's no choice.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
This is the way it is. Sorry.
You've been watching Oz again?
No, I've been watching 60 Days In.
Oh.
My son, for some reason, loves watching that show, so we watch 60 Days In, and it's like, oh, you have to be a racist, essentially. There's no,
Yeah.
you can't just like be friends with everyone in prison. You have to. It's not a great place. Just in case you didn't know.
No.
Don't
Stay in school, kids.
Yeah, any young viewers out there watching us, don't go to prison.
How is Hank doing?
Hank's 35, probably married with kids. I don't know.
Hank's
He
fine.
probably is.
Hank's not going to prison.
I miss Hank.
Hank, ask the iFanboy guys. They stole him.
Yeah, they did. I actually did chat with Ron this week. He was going to the Keith Hernandez number retirement at Citi Field.
Of course he was.
Keith Hernandez.
A guy that retired before Ron was born. Like, why is he going?
It's his favorite player, man.
It's a very hipster. That's a very hipster pick.
Right.
It's like, I'm gonna go see a retirement.
I gotta look up when Keith Hernandez retired.
I had to be
He may be
92, right? 93.
And now tell me when Ron Richards was born. What year was Ron born?
You're not that much younger than us.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Let's see. Keith Hernandez's last season was 1990.
90.
Really?
No.
He retired early.
Did he?
Was 36 years old.
Huh?
Yeah.
In the prime of his life.
He ran out of cocaine.
Happens.
It happens. Yeah.
Speaking of cocaine, I don't know.
Speaking of cocaine, what comic are you bringing up?
Cocaine.
I don't know. What did I read? I read.
Oh, you want to see an old man beer?
I thought you were gonna. Oh man, Bud Light next.
That's the worst. This is the worst thing in the universe.
Why do you own it? Why are you drinking it?
Because it's here, and it has no carbs.
I would much rather have a seltzer.
It's terrible.
I'm drinking a Topo Chico with tequila and lime juice inside of it.
I'm having
it's great.
A bourbon.
Nice. Good for you, sir.
Classy.
I didn't get to show this out of my Star Wars. My daughter got me this for Father's Day. A Star Wars Stormtrooper decanter.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I thought that was an excellent
I
Father's
thought
Day.
I thought you were gonna segue into rogues because Gorilla City sells drugs to humans.
That's you know what? God damn it, we missed the segue, Tom. Thank you for bringing that up. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Thank you,
Rogues.
Tom. I gotta let somebody else do a segue around here.
Rogues number
Yeah.
3.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which was you know what I've liked about Rogues the most, I think, is it keeps surprising me. Like
Mhm.
it does a really good job of sort of pointing you in a direction, thinking you know where it's going to go, and then all of a sudden, you know it's not going to happen, what you think is going to happen, but even then,
Mhm.
you're still surprised by what does sort of happen.
Like
Yeah,
this issue you'd have just been called Len Snart is a fucking asshole, right?
Well, always
always. But
he's called
I-
Captain Cold not because of the gun.
Mhm. I mean, I think, yeah, it's surprising to you because I wouldn't say that Joshua Williamson's like a writer who's sort of like known for surprising you in those sort of ways. If anything, most of his like superhero stuff is very like the most superhero-y, like
Pretty packed.
crisisy. Yeah, like not in a bad way. Just like that's
No.
what he does, right? So this is kind of, I've said in the past sometimes like I enjoy his superhero stuff, and then sometimes I'm like, I don't know why anyone's doing any of the things they're doing in this story. Like they're just kind of like running around, which isn't true for Rogues. Like you kind of definitely get like why characters are doing the things that they're doing, and
You
like,
get the motive that well, I mean, it leans really heavy into motivations.
yeah, and like the art is again fantastic in it. He's
It's
just
really
like
good.
trying anything with Gorilla City is a ton of fun. Like it's funny because it's kind of like you can kind of see like I don't know. I got like weird Godfather vibes from Gorilla Grodd
Yes.
having like a kid and like, and, like
Make him an offer.
yeah,
His
sort of
family,
like
his whole the surprisingly sexy gorilla wife. That's
yeah.
Well, I mean, he is a crime lord.
This is true. He would have a mall.
Yeah.
Of like Gorilla Grodd not being necessarily, like making him slightly sympathetic, at least in the sense of like you get the sense that Grodd is motivated by things, beyond just being evil. Like
yeah, that's a really interesting point because it's like it's not like a typical story with Grodd where it's the Flash or it's some superhero. These
Where
are a bunch
he's
of
the big
asshole
mind
bad guys that
controlling-
are trying to rob
Yeah.
him and his people. Like they're
why
they're the bad
shouldn't
guys.
he kill? Why shouldn't he kill him?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like.
Why are we
like,
rooting
in a weird
for?
way? It's like, yeah, Grodd's selling drugs to humans. It's like, who cares? Like, I would if I were him. Like, fuck humans.
Right?
Like,
They're terrible.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
Wow, Tom goes dark this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, who cares? Of course, he's gonna make money up. But yeah, it's just that sense of like, usually when you see Grodd in a comic, Grodd's like trying to take over the world, and like he's like, which is a fine motivation for a supervillain. Many supervillains have that motivation, but it's rare to sort of see Grodd as being more not humanized, haha, but like he's
Anthropomorphized.
he's like got a motivation besides like I'm gonna take over the world, right? And like it's kind of an interesting twist, not something you usually see with Grodd.
Yeah, I think the the Godfather comparison is interesting because he is kind of a Don Corleone in this, which is
yeah, he's kind of running everything and kind of like you get the sense of he's like
he's
it's
a family
strange,
man,
right? Kind of, yeah. Like he's like apologizes to his wife for losing his temper, and his child's very important to him, and he doesn't necessarily wish that being the king of Gorilla City was all that he did all the time. So it's a very different approach to how Grodd would be. But I mean, again, like it sort of makes sense. Like if Grodd did take over Gorilla City, would Grodd not be more concerned about gorillas than he would humans, or you know, like
Sure. Yeah.
his sort of like, you know, that sense to him of like obviously ape superiority, and you know and I don't think it's going to end well for the rogues in the end. I don't think they're going to get
It's
out
not looking
alive.
good right now.
Yeah, for all of them to get out, and like you know, he already sort of took out a few of them already in this third issue, with one more issue to come. So who knows who will survive, who'll get out of Gorilla City alive.
No one. Well, it is.
Yeah, you kind of feel like it's going to come down to like, you know, Snart having to decide to maybe sacrifice himself to let his sister live, and he's going to be a dick about that too. Snart's going to be the one who survives this. I think everyone else is going to die.
Oh, I don't know. I think there's a reason that it's written in the future when they're old.
Yeah, so they can kill everyone.
Yeah. But I don't know if Snart will be the one to survive necessarily.
Yeah,
that doesn't seem like it would make much sense.
Maybe. I think
we'll see.
They'll all die. All of them. No one's going to survive except Grodd. I think Grodd survives. Grodd endures. He will always exist. But yeah, I mean,
Grodd is inevitable.
Yeah,
it was an interesting. The one scene I wanted to bring up was when the private, or the one detective cop gorilla, I can't, Joey or Joe or something like that. Sam. Yeah. When he has Snart and he's like, you could have made a fortune off of your technology, and you never would have had to been a thief or anything. You could have retired, you know, like you could have done whatever you wanted. And his response is, yeah, just what the world needs, a bunch of cops with ice, guns.
Yeah.
And it is
I hate those people.
Well, it is an interesting just sort of like clarification of a villain of why, you know, he's a rebellious, spirited person. Like he doesn't, you know, and
cops are the bad guys.
Yeah, to him, yeah. Well, kind of to everyone now, but
yeah, I mean, it's like he's not purely motivated by the money, or he would have done that. Like that's not the whole thing to him. I mean, he's Captain Cold's, you know, obviously there's a part that's like he's very calculated and he's got this plan, he's going to pull off this heist, but he's also obviously someone ruled by his emotions because he does all these things that are not the smartest thing to do, right? Like his desire to steal all the gold from Gorilla
City, right.
I mean, his desire to like push the other rogues to like, and until they, you know, in cases some of them die, you know, like that's not part of the plan. That's probably not the smartest way to go about it. So like for all of his cold, calculated approach to everything, it's his own like desire, his overreach, his ego, which will be the thing that, you know, just like at the beginning of the story, he could have just kept his job and just lived out the rest of his life. But he decided that he needs to rob Gorilla City. That's the thing he wants to do, you know. And it's like, okay, you know. And then he goes in there, and it's his own actions, right? That like, you push them into trouble, right? Of you know, of like, you know, essentially, like, don't piss off the guy who's your getaway driver. Like that's like,
right?
Yeah. Like that's your own fault. You did that, you know. And like,
well, also don't hire such a fragile person to be your getaway driver.
Yeah. I mean, but there's also that scene too where the Mirror Master's like, you know, it's not you're always like saying the rogues are family, but it's about you. It's not about any of us, right? Like he just manipulates all these sick people into like doing the thing he wants to do.
Yeah,
I imagine that's how that's how you put together a supervillain team, right? Like it's not a bunch of stable individuals. It's just like the one guy that sort of, you know, is able to, you know, it's like a cult. It's like the one guy that's able to manipulate a bunch of people that
it's like
have
a pack
flaws.
of dogs, right? It's a hierarchy of kind of like viciousness, right?
Well, I don't know, maybe to some degree. I think some of that, but I don't know that that's necessarily the rogues. It's, you know, I think Snart is smart enough to sort of figure out each one's weakness and prey on that and sort of manipulate that. It's well, going back to 60 Days In, it's how it's how sort of you know, if you become a leader of a gang is you're manipulating, you know, it's how anyone comes in charge, right? Like it's how do people become leaders in any way? It's like manipulating other people's weaknesses. It's like, what makes you know, how do we get a fucking president of this country? It's not like he's the best
scare
man
people into voting for them.
Yeah, it's not the best man for the job. It's manipulating emotions.
They scare people into voting for them,
which is just fucked up, you know, that's how leaders are made. You know, it's just the most fucked up system of it's why no leadership ever works.
That's why it's
Grodd for president. Grodd for president.
Did either of you guys read are you guys aren't reading the Dark Crisis books, are you?
I'm behind on them. I keep trying to start reading them and I keep losing, like, I don't know, my brain like gets distracted by everything else. And I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like, I don't know. It doesn't stick.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Like it doesn't stick in my brain for whatever reason. Every time I pick one up, I'm like, wait, what?
You're liking it, Sal, right?
I am liking it. Yeah. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I read, and then we could just touch on it real quick and then move on to something else. But Dark Crisis, A World Without the Justice League, Superman #1, the longest titled comic book in the week, I think.
You know, it's an event when you got multiple like hyphens in there.
Dash, hyphen,
dash.
But and I don't know what it was. Tom King and our buddy Chris Burnham, our old pal Chris Burnham on art. Cool. And
yeah, I need to pick that up.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But I didn't quite understand. Like, it felt like I think it's a standalone story, and I really enjoyed it as a standalone story. Tom King, one of my favorite writers, and he writes this very interesting standalone tale about Superman and his son John. But I'm not sure where this is at exactly. I don't know what Superman this is. It seems like it's some sort of alternate universe. Or when it takes place, but I didn't care. Like, none of that really mattered. It was just like, okay, here's a story about Superman and his son. And it was an older Superman. And you see the son grow up from like a very young age of, say, I don't know, 9 or 10. And then you see him sort of become a teenager and then a young man throughout this story. And the concept of it, the basic theme of it was that he becomes aware of the fact that there are people suffering on Apocalypse. And he can't stand that idea. And his father, Superman, has had this pact with Darkseid that, basically he agrees to leave Earth alone and Earth is safe.
Yeah.
And he leaves Apocalypse alone.
You don't fuck with us, we won't fuck with you.
Hey, wait, is it Apocalypse or am I confusing?
Yeah, that's Darkseid.
That's
okay.
Apocalypse, yeah.
But John can't accept that. And so he keeps going there and fighting and trying to help the people there. And he just, but the way that it's told, it's very much an analogy of like a young man deciding to go off to war, which I thought was really interesting, especially for Tom. If you know his history. If you don't know his history, he was a young man who decided to sign up for the CIA after 9/11, and he ended up in Afghanistan and fought for our country and fought for what he believed in. So it was a really interesting story from that perspective, looking at it from that perspective, like, Superman doesn't agree with his son necessarily, or he doesn't think it's the best thing that he does, but at some point he understands, like, this is who he is. He's not me. I'm okay with sort of, I can only protect the people closest to me. I can only protect what's at home. I'm not going to go off and fight this war. But he wants to do that, and he decides that that's what he has to do. And so he ends up accepting that and saying goodbye to his son to go off and fight in the war. So it was a really interesting, superhero Superman story. But at the the sort of analogy of it was this young man going off for war, which is a really interesting thing for me to read, because just personally, like, I'm a very conflicted person when it comes to that kind of a thing. Like, I would,
You're not jingoistic.
I'm not no, but I do appreciate and respect
You're
people.
a patriot.
And I don't know, it's a very conflicted sort of thing. Like, I always respect people that certainly go and fight, as misguided as I think some have been, or lied to, or I think mostly wars are bullshit and not really. But yeah, so I don't know. It was just a really sort of interesting.
But you're not jingoistic.
Yeah, but I looked at it like, wow, that
I mean, it's interesting because it's sort of like, it would be great if every bad guy was as clearly bad as Darkseid.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
In real life, you know, like, that's always more and more they fucking are.
No, but that's absolutely true. Like, the last war that we fought that probably was that clear cut was World War II. Sure. Everything else is very gray, and even World War II to some degree. I think the more you sort of look at it through history, not that it was gray. I mean, Hitler obviously,
but things like dropping the atomic bombs and.
Exactly.
There's where you're sort of like
a lot of blood on a lot of people's hands.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But every war since then is even more gray and more convoluted and more conflict in it, that kind of a thing. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, it was an interesting thing for me to read as a father, of sort of like imagining my son doing that sort of thing, or even myself. I remember, when it wasn't 9/11, I was already, older, but when Desert Storm happened, my cousin was there. He was in the army. He was in Iraq. He had been deployed, and that war broke out. And I can remember my friends and I sitting around the TV the night that happened. And like, we were planning on joining the Marines the next day. Like, there was 3 or 4 of us, and like, that was our, we're watching this war happen, and luckily the war was basically over the next day, and so I guess we don't need to. We don't need to sign up. We're good. We'll go play softball.
Shock and awe, right?
But if that could have easily changed, and I certainly could have fallen into that as a young man. The idealism and the patriotism, the idea of like fighting for my country, which, like I said, I can never fault anyone for doing that, and I certainly appreciate anyone that does that. But it is a conflicting thing. It is an odd sort of and to have a Superman Superboy story talk about it, I thought it was just
I haven't read it, but I mean, I think there's an interest, the idea of like an older Superman accepts that he can't destroy Darkseid. Darkseid's evil is inevitable. Like, he
exactly
has come to terms with that. Like, I can't, like, he knows that he cannot destroy Darkseid. Like, both in the very real, in the not real, but in like sort of the canonical sense of like, Darkseid is inevitable. He is going to survive. He is like,
he realizes that
he is,
the best case scenario is a war of attrition,
of just like, hopefully he just stays over there and like, you don't run into him. It's like,
well, I wonder,
whereas someone who's younger, who thinks like, I'll defeat dark side. Like I can do it, you know, like there is like a certain youthful like arrogance to that
That's
of
the
like I'll be the one.
invulnerability of youth.
Yeah,
Well, I
I'll
wonder,
be the one.
and that was what I started to wonder was like, is this Tom sort of, now that he's older, he has children of his own, he's not that young guy that joined and went to war essentially, as he sort of look back on it differently, or is that sort of him looking at it from a young man's and an older man's perspective of going, yeah, it is inevitable. I can't stop this. It was, maybe foolish, but when I was younger, it wasn't. It's like I said, Tom King, I think is just one of the most fascinating writers in comics because I think he pulls from his own life so much, and he deals with stories that really for decades no one's ever really written comic
It's
books.
almost like self-therapy. You're right.
Yeah, for sure. But nobody writes nobody writes superhero comics, mainstream superhero comics like he does, and dealing with a lot of these kind of ideas, suicide and war and all these, it's
And
like
I'm not comparing them as how the actual craft of writing, but as far as like where they're coming from. I mean, Tom King is very much this generation's Denny O'Neil in that he's writing about real issues in comics that a lot of other people just aren't writing about.
Yeah, for sure. I think that he's one of the few that it seems like has
Well, I mean,
more perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
we don't
just
have
more
war. We don't
perspective.
have war comics anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have Robert Kanigher writing, a war comic with the ending always being like, maybe Pete. I forget how he ended like every Sergeant Rock thing about, like a lot of those stories are, like, yes, a lot of Sergeant Rock stories, a lot of war comics are very black and white, like good guy, bad guy. But there are stories where it's not as, like it's about the sort of horror of war, or at least like the comic book version of that, of like, it's not, always so like heroic to be to be
Right.
the hero of war, like it's not always that.
What I like about Tom's comics, and I would have to go back and look at kind of the progression. I don't know if he's always written like this or if he kind of earned it. But when you start reading a Tom King comic, you kind of have to go in understanding that you're going to have to work at it, and stuff is not going to be revealed to you super early. It's why I love reading his stuff collected. It's hard for me to keep up with it month to month, but I know whenever I sit down and read it as a volume, it's a pretty impressive piece of work. And it's do you guys recall, has he always written like that? I mean, he challenges his readers.
Yeah, no, I think you can go back to Sheriff of Babylon, and I don't know that on the Nightwing, or it wasn't Nightwing, it was the Grayson book, which was kind of where he got started. I mean, there was
He
still
worked on that with Tim Seals.
Yeah, that was so. I mean, I think Tim was able to, or Tim, between the two of them, it wasn't necessarily as much Tom's work, but I think if you looked at his early work, it's always been challenging. It's always been, dealing with complex issues and that kind of thing. But the thing I loved about this particular issue is that it's a pretty short story, and there's, so there's not, there's nowhere to get lost in it, and sort of, it's pretty concise, and it's not. I think I made it deeper sounding than the book necessarily is. It's at least the way that it's told. It's a fun Superman.
Well, that's cool. I mean, that's the mark of a good book, is when you can enjoy it at absolute surface level, but then if you go back and look at it, it's like, oh, there's layers here. I mean, that's what we've always talked about Watchmen, right? Surface level, great, but then start peeling back the layers, the onion.
Yeah, and I feel like that definitely there with that. But yeah, so it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading it. Enjoyed it.
Right.
Um, Tom needs another Topo Chico.
Another Topo Chico with tequila.
Tequila. So you just put tequila in it, or it comes with tequila?
It comes with tequila.
No, you put it in.
Oh,
It's a ranch water. It's a recipe. You put a little lime juice in. You put some tequila.
You white guys, you gringos will fall for any bullshit. Ranch water. That's become the new sort of.
I didn't name it.
I know.
Didn't name it.
Oh, but it's just like
I know what you mean.
I remember I used to laugh.
It tastes really good.
Tilapia became a huge thing. And I'm like, that's a fucking Mexican catfish.
That's absolutely what it is. Fucking bottom feeder.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not fucking eating that. And it became gigantic. Like everybody, fancy restaurants, tilapia. It's like, yeah, fucking catfish, man.
Yeah. Fish tacos are always tilapia. And I'm just like, you're acting like this is, like, Alaskan, salmon or something. So
Topo Chico was did you experience the Topo Chico drought we had earlier in the year? There was it was getting hard to find Topo Chico a little bit.
I mean, I don't get it. I only get this every once in a while. Like if I'm at the grocery store, it's not my usual go-to. But I grabbed one on the way out of the grocery store because I do like it with the tequila and lime juice. It's pretty nice.
What kind of?
That's good.
Any particular
Edadura? Does
nice.
I get that through work?
I'll have to try it. I have not tried a Topo with tequila. I have a nice bottle of tequila someone gave me for Christmas, actually.
Oh,
Chris gave me
it's good. Yeah,
tequila.
It's essentially like
did I?
You did.
It's like a margarita.
What was that the Tres Agaves?
Yep.
That's a good
Not
one.
to get too far into the realm of drinking, but I've also I also been enjoying just like a classic margarita of just tequila, Cointreau, and like lime juice, and that's it. And it's really good. And on a hot day, that's tequila is a good.
Are you? Can you find because I've had Cointreau from Mexico. We used to get it all the time. My uncle would get it, and my cousins would get it. And whenever I went down there, we would get bottles of it because it was super cheap. But there's a French one that's like orange that I've seen for sale. That was like for years. That's all you could get around here.
Yeah. Well, I go to Binny's, and Binny's has like 6 different ones. They they have Cointreau, which is the most expensive one. And then there's like Naranja, which is like an orange liqueur.
Yeah.
So like there's so many. And then you could just get triple sec if you're really like
right.
Just want the flavor, the flavor of it. But yeah, there's so many.
I've consumed a lot of.
For those of you who don't live in the Chicago area who aren't familiar with Binny's Beverage Depot, it's a fantastic liquor store.
It is.
That has so much stuff.
Anything you want.
It's like
can't find it.
It's like it's not worth drinking, as is their advertising slogan. Everything worth drinking is at Binny's.
Is the Cointreau you buy is the dark green bottle?
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
I will have to go. I used to hoard it. I used to get it like whenever any of my family would go to Mexico, I would have them buy it for me because it was like $6 a bottle.
Yeah.
There.
Is it the Nora? It's like Nora. I have that one. I have like the French like traditional Cointreau, but I've seen the Naranja one that's in like I've had that one too, and that one's they have that at Binny's. They have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one.
Welcome to Binny's Talk. Binny's.
Yeah. Binny cast.
Binny's is like
it's great. It's Ray's liquor here in Wauwatosa. That's my
like
spot.
Binny's, you know that feeling when you're in like a really good comic book shop and you can just kind of like wander around and like look at
Discover something new.
That is Binny's. Binny's
Yeah,
is
for
like,
sure.
I'll just walk around and you'll always find something you'll be like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
Pabst Blue Ribbon hard coffee? I'll get that.
We have a
Sectars
small...
number 1. This looks interesting.
Sectars? Oh, all 6 issues of Sectars?
We have a small chain here called Sal's Beverage, which is where I go. But it's very much the same thing. It started as just one store, but they were like, for years, they were sort of the store that you could only go to get like anything really interesting before, everybody started carrying more and more of that kind
More
of
stuff, yeah.
So they ended up opening a second location, but they're great. Like they have they have the super booze nerd. They have the comic book guys there that are, they're the booze guys that know everything, and will fucking answer any question more than, I mean, they like surround you. You walk in the store and they're just like, can we help you? What, can we answer a question? You have something? What are you looking for? What do you, and they're great. They're awesome.
Yeah. It's like comic books that you can drink.
Oh yeah.
That make
you can
feel
nerd
good.
up anything.
Oh yeah.
Everything.
Oh yeah. Anyway, just some cocktail talk.
Did we all
Since I started working on hard liquor, I now have a lot of hard liquor. So I'm always now
surprise.
I bought like the New York Times cocktail book, which is pretty cool. Actually, it's really nice. I bought it like used someplace. It's a fun little read because it's got like all these sort of articles. It's like divided up by like, here's like Collins drinks and here's like different old fashions and like little write-ups from the New York Times about like different cocktails and stuff. It's a cool book because you can just like flip through it. Like if you're like, you know what, I feel like having like a bourbon drink, you go to that section, you'll find something that's kind of like, that's interesting. Or like, I didn't know.
A little tale about it.
Yeah, like a little thing. It's nice.
Very
I've
nice.
discovered a few drinks I like in there. So
nice.
Did we all read 8 Billion Genies?
I did not.
Yeah, number 3. I read number 3.
I didn't read number 3. I only read number 2.
That's all right. It's awesome. It's gonna make a cool TV show.
Yeah, it is.
This week, I promise.
No.
Oh, Ryan Brown's gonna be insufferable when he's like rich.
Going to be what's this going?
Well, I know he's already.
Hey, I would just like to point out in the Hollywood Reporter story about 8 Billion Genies being greenlit for the TV show and movies and blah 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 blah. The portrait of Ryan Brown was taken by yours truly.
Oh, did you get credit in the Hollywood?
I did. I did go to the Hollywood Reporter story on 8 Billion Genies, and I'm credited.
Insufferable. Talk about insufferable.
Talk about insufferable.
Here it is.
Oh my god!
Have I told you guys how amazing I am?
That book, no details, because I don't want to spoil it, but it does such a good job of like being both funny and sort of poignant at the same time. Of like it just also like the way they've explained like the rules of how the wishes work is so it's just like it's funny.
Yeah. I mean, Charles Soule is a really good writer.
It's like essentially, it's like what we just said, whatever.
Yeah.
There's Chris's. So you took this picture of Ryan.
Yeah, that's a picture of Ryan I took. That's actually taken at 4-Star Studios. He was.
It looks like you've trapped him like
Eastman.
Yeah.
It looks like you trapped him in like a pit, and he's looking up at you like you're.
Yeah, were you on a ladder? What was?
I was standing on a ladder, as a matter of fact.
Like you're like Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, and you're gonna lower the basket.
It puts the lotion on
its skin.
So did you get paid for that? Did they have to pay you to use that?
No, it was okay. So here's the long story of it.
There's a longer version.
There's a long version. I will try and make it quick. It's whenever I left my job to become a freelance photographer and designer, and Mike Norton, who kind of ran 4-Star Studios, said, "Hey, if you need studio space for headshots, let me know and you can come." And it was really, really generous of him because I did several photo shoots there. I was like, "Hey, as a thank you, I think this is how it transpired. It's like I want to do portraits of all the people in 4-Star for you guys to use as your promotional photos for conventions and that kind of stuff." And so it was Ryan and Mike Norton and Tim Seeley and Sean Dove, and I think Jenny Frizen was still there, but she wasn't there when we did the headshots. So, but
She knows
yeah,
you're
I
a
did
freak
portraits for the studio as a thank you for using the space.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
You're right. It was longer.
Sorry. Sorry I bored you, Tom.
Oh no, it's all right. It's all right. Oh,
He's used
it's
to
all
it.
right.
He's very used to it. It happens.
Yes,
all
I am excited to do this with sectars.
When are we? Okay, so I've got to find a digital
Well, I just,
copy
like-
of it. I've got to scan my original copy and send it to you. So we're gonna do sectars.
I'm just gonna make a
like
GIF of me going like,
so.
and just
All right,
like put it on my
what's your
screen.
general availability? Let's say these are gonna be.
Can
like
we do this?
20
Can we do this sort of management?
No,
Production. Can we do this production
behind
meeting?
the- behind the
Off?
Can we? So,
You know?
you want to circle back on this at a,
We'll,
at a different
we'll
time?
circle back because I'm thinking like 20-minute episodes, right? For the Patreon. Which, if you want to know more about
20
Chris and
minutes,
Tom
yeah.
talk about old comics, you can become a
Old guys,
patron.
old comics, old spice. That's the name.
Old
of it.
guys,
That's it.
old comics.
Old guys, old
Ufos.
comics. Okay, yeah, okay. We'll talk about it, but you can find out about it whenever we
Okay.
decide on the name by going to patreon.com/around comics, where you can also find our ACTV, which Sal and I, and this last week Tom joined us to talk about TV and movies and other like 2D stuff that's not comics. It was fun. Did you enjoy the ACTV?
Yeah, it was a really special event.
Time in your
What?
life is a real special time.
It was good. I mean, it was essentially this. Just
It was
like,
pretty much this, but talking about
pretty much this
nerdy TV.
You know, I'm gonna have a new Tom versus the. It's funny, my wife, you know, she had Back to the Office, and now they're no longer Back to the Office, and also now my kids like no longer like sleep ever; they're just awake all the time. So one of these days, she'll be out of the. I'll have the office to myself during the day because when I record an episode, I need an hour of uninterrupted. I need
Silence.
to enter my space. I need to like eat some edibles.
Oh,
I've got to wait for them to kick in. I pull down the shades, put on the music.
take off your pants.
I'm not wearing pants now, but I get nude, totally nude.
Pull out some freedom fighters.
Oil. You got to oil up.
I turn up the heat like hot. It's like 85 degrees and this and sweating just over the.
You just dump a long box of quarter bin.
Just, yeah, it's everywhere.
Around in it.
Yeah.
It's Tom versus
It
Bikram.
smells like water damage. It's just like
Get that
old,
smell. Get
yeah,
covered in
that
that
old
rotting
book smell.
that
Some oil.
rotting paper smell. Yeah.
Nice. I can see it. I can vision it.
Yeah. So that's why you should be a patron.
Yeah. Then I just scream out the episode in one just unending 15 minutes.
Rant.
Yeah,
So
and then
how many Freedom Fighters issues do you have left?
I got like 7.
Okay.
I do it when the muse that strikes me
Sure.
to get to. I mean, like I joke about doing it in one unending 20. It is essentially just one unending 20 minutes. I don't stop myself, and then I just go back and edit out all the times that I'm like, because now I know what my ums look like and the waveforms. It's super easy for me to find them. I know my own like ticks, what they look like. I'm like, yep, that's what I do.
The visual representation of my inability to speak without pausing.
Articulate. Yeah, exactly. I know what that looks like. It's very easy to edit now. It's like I've done it for years. I'm like, yep, I know what it looks like when I'm fumbling. Edit.
I stopped editing this podcast.
There was a time I would spend probably twice as much time of the runtime of the episode.
Oh Jesus, really? Jesus Christ!
Oh, Tom, I would take out every and and
This is the flavor. It's like taking the salt and pepper out, my friend.
Yeah, it's
It's different if you're by yourself. It's different when it's just your voice and you're just talking, because sometimes when you're just talking, your ticks sound weird because there's no one else talking. So it's just sort of like if you like stumble over your words and you pause for a second. Yeah, it's like it's and there's three of us. You know, it's different. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we know our ticks so much by now.
It doesn't matter.
Listen, if you're still listening to this podcast at this point, there's nothing we're gonna say that's gonna drive you away, or
the audio quality's dip. Oh, these guys don't edit their episodes anymore. Yeah, what you guys hear is the tight hour. We record for 4 to 5 hours,
right,
to get down to the.
It's like sifting for gold, man. We just sift it.
Hours of just even worse episodes.
Yeah. These are the highlights.
We have the director's cut. We have the director's cuts, and they're not good. They're not good.
It's like 4 hours long.
I have probably, out of our first like 100 episodes, I probably have like 40 or 50 like uncut episodes on a hard drive somewhere.
Trash that shit. No,
they're worthless.
Yeah, I have stacks.
No, I think I have like the uncut.
Oh, you got rare eps. You got rare uncut
like
eps.
The uncut Gene Colan and John Byrne interviews.
Nice. We should re-release those in a special director's cut
commentary where we do commentary
raw format.
Commentary on our commentary.
I have a stack of CDs somewhere that is like the first 100 episodes, the raw recorded files of like the first 115 episodes that we had. They're somewhere. They're in a bookcase or something. I don't even know anymore. I have them still though. Yeah.
I have a great segue for that for my last book. We probably remember those episodes like a lot of people remember like old Disney cartoons, and they're really not that good. So really what you want is an updated kind of like modern retelling, but with the same aesthetic, artistic aesthetic of those comics, which we get in Mickey Mouse Zombie Coffee.
Are we still talking comics? I thought we were done.
I just want to I want to encourage people to check out this book. If you like the artistic style of 1930s Disney comics, but with a little bit updated, dialogue, really, really good. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
And so it's like when people are like,
Monastery. Oh, sorry.
It's like Popeye used to be in a comic strip, and then you look up the comic strip and it was like, it also featured like all kinds of weird shit that you're like, what? All kinds of weird.
There's no cringe factor in this, and it's a really fun, entertaining like romp of a Disney cartoon with none of like the cringe.
Are you a Disney adult?
Are you in the Masters Division Mickey Mouse Club?
No, I'm not. But I really like I like the art in this, and it read like it really bridged that gap.
I guess here's the thing, guys. When it comes
Mhm.
down to it, I'm a Bugs Bunny man. Always have been, always will be. Mickey Mouse sucks. He's boring.
I'm
Mickey Mouse has
I'm
never
right
made
there
me
with
laugh.
you. I'm right
Mickey
there
Mouse
with you.
never made
Tom.
me laugh. Where's the joy? Bugs Bunny's dressing up like a sexy rabbit. He's making jokes. He's,
I'm right there with you. I'm on your side, Tom. Fuck
All
Mickey
right.
Mouse.
You
What,
guys,
just
Fuck
because
the
he's
mouse.
the first?
He was a
was on a
corporate
boat?
shill.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Now,
before it was
now
great.
that Goofy, now I could get down with Goofy.
Goofy was a free spirit. Goofy was
Yeah. Now
independent.
Goofy, I'll watch some Goofy.
All right.
Joe G wants us to talk more about the Tick. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Joe. We've never
Joe,
talked
do
about
you
the
want
Tick.
us to talk about the comic or one of the like fucking 3 TV shows?
I remember back when I
wait.
was watching. I have a little Tick story. It's not much of a story. I'm a
Share
terrible
it.
storyteller, but I was living with my wife now, and I think her sister was visiting.
Mhm.
And I was watching the Tick, and I was probably, I don't know, when the first Tick cartoon came out.
Okay.
So
Yes.
whenever that was. And
Okay.
she was kind of, I mean, she was in medical school, like a medical student, and she was kind of, I don't, not full of herself, but just sort of like, she looked at me like watching a cartoon, like, why are you watching this
Yeah.
cartoon?
Yeah.
It's a fucking cartoon. It's for children.
It's a fucking cartoon. Yeah, it's for children. Why are you watching this fucking cartoon?
This
And-
is ACTV now, by the way, with
That's
me
all
and
right.
Sal. He's like, "Why are you watching this cartoon?"
Why are you watching this cartoon, Chris? Well, the Tick was a good cartoon. You watch garbage cartoons
Tick
Come
was
on.
great. Yeah.
all the time. Anyway, so I sat there and then I basically forced her to watch an episode with me, and I sat and explained like why it was so great, like what the sort of the original esoteric qualities of that, and the meta, storytelling that was going on in the Tick. And then all of a sudden she became a fucking Tick fanatic. Like, she loved that cartoon. Once I like broke it down for her and sort of explained why I liked it,
Yeah.
she never missed an episode. And
I love the Tick cartoon. I like that Tick TV show on Amazon too. It was good.
yeah. I like
I
the
like
live
the
action. I
one
like
with
the
Buddy.
cartoon. I like everything about Tick. I always thought Tick was one of the more interesting,
Yeah.
like, independent comics, but the cartoon was excellent. It was better than the comic book.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's I know there are a lot of people who's like, "Oh, the Tick should be much more popular," but I think the Tick, as far as the idea goes, has had a good run.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
been
I mean,
wildly successful.
yeah. But it could.
I
could
know.
see
When
it-
I
it-
hear people say that, which I hear constantly, people constantly saying the Tick should be more popular. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say.
The Tick Tick's had a good run.
Yeah.
No, but I think I could see it becoming,
Cultish.
well, certainly along the lines of, like, stuff that is hugely popular now that I think you would have looked at 20 years ago as very niche. You know what I mean? Like, I think if the Tick came out today but I think there's just some things about the Tick that are a little too weird for it to ever become super mainstream. But I think
Yeah.
there's certainly ideas in the Tick that you
Kinda
could
kids
see.
in the
Oh,
hall.
why isn't this bigger? Why isn't this more mainstream? But it's also a dude in a giant Tick costume, which is
Yeah.
like hard, I think, for
It's
people to.
kind of kids in the hallish, where it's gonna be a certain
It's had a bunch
part
of
of the
TV
population,
shows.
right?
Yeah, it's been pretty popular.
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, and like, it's
Over like
it always
what,
amazes
30
me when you
years?
do pick up a
40
Tick
years.
comic.
When sometimes I'll pick up one of those like bound. I thought I might have one right by me,
one of those bound Tick editions, you know, where they just like cheaply bind together a bunch of Tick comics, and you always see
cool.
like how it's like the whole New England comics, you know, like thing, you know, like it's its own little weird independent like empire of like its own little business of pumping out, like, you know, very 80s, very like, you know, of that time period, and it's like still kind of chugging along, which is pretty cool.
3 television shows, 1994, 2001, and 2016. So yeah, not fucking bad for a black and white comic book,
right?
About a dude in a giant tick costume that doesn't even look anything like a tick. Like, what fucking ticks are blue?
Right.
Wait, I think I see it. Oh wait, no, I'm wrong.
And here's the one that, like, does anyone know what Ben Edlund looks like? The guy that created the Tick.
The second series had Putty from Seinfeld.
Yeah,
he is the Tick to me.
He was great. He was terrific as the
He was
Tick.
amazing.
Yeah, he had that great deadpan Patrick Warburton. Just, you know, he had that great sort of flat.
Hey, partner.
Yeah, champion. It was almost Adam West-ish.
It was just very Adam West.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Ben Edlund is complaining about the popularity of the Tick. I think he's probably doing all right.
He's bought a house.
Let's see. Oh, he's worked with the Venture Brothers.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm very disappointed that show is. That is one of my favorite things ever created. The Venture Brothers. Yeah, I think the Tick's pretty done pretty well for itself.
All right, it's done okay. It's no TMNT, but
well, I mean, what is Jesus? Billion, multi-billion-dollar turtles.
Right.
My son was playing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game the other day on Switch, like the old classic cabinet one.
Oh yeah,
you can.
Sony just released a new TMNT game, and it's going ridiculously fun.
And they sold all the rights.
Yeah.
That's the crazy. They sold all the fucking rights. I mean, they made a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
but they sold the rights, and then it became a $1 billion franchise.
They sold the rights.
Oh yeah, years ago. So the Eastman sold it to Laird, or Laird sold it to Eastman. I don't remember which. One of them didn't want to do it anymore. Like, they had made a shit ton of money. Like, they made a bunch of money, millions and millions and millions of dollars.
They're good.
Yeah, they made millions of dollars, and then the one was like, I'm kind of done. I don't really want to have anything more to do with it. I kind of disagree with the direction of stuff, because they were really smart, where they had final approval on everything. Like, while they own the rights, they had final approval. Nothing could get made without their approval, the two of them, and they both had to agree.
Yeah, 50-50 share.
Yeah, so they made a shit ton of money, but then the one sold it to the other, and then, there were ebbs and flows. It became really popular, and then like the movies came out, and then after the movies, it sort of died off again, and that was when he sold the rights to Mattel or whatever, and then it became $1 billion fucking industry unto itself. The animated shows and all that stuff. So I mean, I think they sold it for like $85 million or something like that.
They're okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it is kind of interesting. You look at like how much money, but that actually brings up, I don't know if either of you read it, but I'd really be interested to know what your thoughts on it were. There's a book that came out called Public Domain by Chip Zdarsky. It was
I was going to read that. I haven't read it yet, but
it's interesting. I mean, it's basically like, it's a comic book about a guy getting screwed over on his comic book creation that becomes a multi-franchise film, thing. And it's a
Gee, would that ever happen?
yeah, but I felt it was kind of, I don't know, it was just like on the nose. Like everything about it was sort of really on the
Well,
nose.
it's going to obviously be told from the creator perspective, right?
Yeah, it was. Well, no, it wasn't actually. It wasn't told from his perspective. It was told by his son's perspective, mostly. But yeah, it's certainly, from the perspective of like these movie companies and these actors that are making millions of dollars are asshole pieces of shit that don't deserve it. And the
It's
guy
coming from the perspective of the wronged.
Yes. Yeah. I'd be interested to see what you guys think about it.
What's it called?
It's called Public Domain.
Okay.
And the character is called the Domain. And yeah, it's about this guy, these two, a writer and an artist that created the character, and now it's years and years later. It's owned by Singular Films or Singular Creative Company, which is your Marvel or DC, and they have a franchise of films that have come out from it, but the original artist has really not made much of anything on the money or on the movies for whatever reason. The writer seemingly has made a lot, but the artist hasn't. So it's really coming from the perspective of like, Jack getting fucked over kind of thing. And the writer's an asshole who doesn't want anything to do with the artist, and his son's a journalist writing like entertainment stuff, and ends up having to write an article about the movie. And yeah, it's like I said, I'd be interested. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I'd be interested what you guys thought about it, because
All right.
I mean, we've talked about this for literally, almost 2 decades now. The same sort of thing of like creator rights, and when a movie franchise makes billions of dollars on these characters, and creators, the guys that made the character not getting paid. But I always kind of, it's like but it wouldn't have made that money without thousands of other people involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I get the idea of like, hey, you created this, you created Superman, but Superman would not be $1 billion character if not for hundreds, if not thousands of other people.
You laid the egg.
Yeah. But also think
there's
about
a lot
this
that
in
has to
context.
happen after the egg hatches.
Think about
work,
this in
right?
context of what we talked about in ACTV with all the visual artists who are also like kind of fed up with Marvel too, like.
Well, yeah, there's always going to be the greedy. There's always going to be the people that take too much, then give very little.
I guess
There's
I think
always
it's
going to be the
like-
one snart out there, just takes and takes.
Well, I think there is, I think of an undercurrent of not just the creators of the characters, but I think like you start when you start talking about the visual artists as part of it, or you start talking about directors who get let go from movies that are working, like I think there is like sort of like the people working creatively probably are much like closer to each other than they are to the Disney corporation machine that is like churning, we must release this movie this week because we have a different movie coming out in 2 weeks. So I think it's like, I don't know, it's sort of interesting in that way, because it just made that pop into my head where I was like, oh yeah, like as these movies become like these behemoth sort of like unstoppable like machines that just like trample through pop culture, like it's just like we must
That's such a cynical one. That's such a cynical way to look at it though. Like it's like it's this horrible, fucking juggernaut, this
I don't know how else
blitzkrieging.
to describe Doctor Strange multiverse of madness other than like this machine.
Well, but it
that had
also
to-
brings a lot of joy to people. Like people love it.
Yeah.
People fucking love it.
Yeah,
So it brings a lot of
Sure,
entertainment
it's a great
value and joy to
movie.
people.
No, it's mediocre,
I'm just saying,
but it's
like,
fun.
there must be things. It's like all successful things. Now it has become, it's like one of these must come out every 2.5 months, and we
Yes.
must continually, like it is, that's not the point of view of the people watching. It's the point of view, I
talked about it a
guarantee,
couple weeks
of
ago.
the movie executives don't give a fuck.
They've become comics.
people.
They've
I mean,
become
yeah,
comics.
like,
But that's the
Some of
thing,
them
though,
are
is-
good, and some of them are really shitty.
Well, but
They're
it's not
comic
about
books
good or
now.
really shitty. It's just the
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if they're good or they're really shitty. They are
Oh
unstoppable.
yeah, it doesn't.
Even if it's
Yeah,
a
they're
piece
just like
of
a
shit,
thing.
it's gonna make $1 billion.
Yeah.
And-
It's strange. Yeah, it's
Yeah, it is odd, but it is. I think
Yeah, I
it's
don't
not
feel
the
like
movie,
we won
it's
though.
not the
I should
fans,
feel
it's
like
not
we
the
won.
people. It's not the people
Yeah.
that work on the movie. It's the corporation behind it. It's this nameless, faceless,
yeah.
you
it's
know,
just like
monstrosity of a corporation that is pushing, and it's not one person. You know what I mean? Like you can't point to one
No,
person.
yeah.
It's a bunch of systems working independently and together to all make as much fucking money as humanly
Yeah.
possible.
It's like we must have one of these every 3 months.
Yeah.
Whether there's a reason to have it or not, like
Yeah.
do we need
I-
to tell a Doctor Strange story? I would say after watching that movie, no. This one didn't. but well, damn it, we need something. It is like a comic. Like we
Yeah.
got something's gonna come out, so it's like
gotta
we
come
have
out every
something on
month.
the
You know,
shelf.
This quarter, baby, we got to have something out this quarter. It's just like monthly
Yeah, exactly.
comic.
Yeah,
So if we're gonna just-
I feel like we should be celebrating because we won, but I don't feel like we won, right?
Oh, we just brought like all the weird shit from comics. Now it's just all pop culture. It's now
We
all
brought
pop
all
culture.
the
Is
bad
just like
shit with us.
it's just like all this.
I
like,
don't know. I'm not complaining, man.
It's
There's
For
fine.
so
me,
much
I'm
stuff
having
to
more
watch.
fun with all this bullshit, and it you know what I mean. Even if I don't like Doctor
There's
Strange,
worse things in the world. There's
Yeah.
worse things in the world. But it is like it's funny to watch like the transition of the Marvel movies from like the first Iron Man, like, oh, that's fun. When's the next one? It's like, oh my
cute.
god, they're coming out with now Thor's out. Like, what's the next? It's like, no, there will be another one in 3 months. And and we will like phase 7. Like, what's happening? Why are we so like what are we building towards? We're building towards nothing now. Now you just get these movies and it's just more. Make more.
You're building
Uh,
towards phase 8, right?
Yeah. I'm sure, yeah, people enjoy them. It's fine. But they are a behemoth. They are an unstoppable pop culture machine at this point where it's like
Oh, billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. So,
got
Good
everything
on
we
them.
wanted, guys.
all right,
got
on that
everything we
cheery
got
note,
what we wanted. We
We got
got.
what we
we
wanted.
got what we wanted.
Now look at us.
Not what we
Have
needed.
you guys seen Thor? yet?
Not yet. I'm gonna
I
go.
didn't even know it was coming out.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Is like at this point, these movies just come out now, and I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, I guess that's out. It's like,
I mean, I already read the shitty Jason Aaron comics where, Thor loses his hammer and Lady Thor gets the hammer, and Thor has to be, the buffoon of the fucking book. I already read that. I don't know if I need to see a movie
I've
of
read
that.
enough reviews of the movie, that when it comes out on Disney Plus, I'm definitely gonna watch it
Oh, yeah.
because I'm like, I intrigued by the bad review. I'm like, okay, I gotta check this out. Like, it's interesting. I read one review. Again, I haven't seen it, so grain of salt. But where someone was like, it's filmed like a soap opera. Like they were just like everyone's lined up in a line, just like talking, like, and everything's lit really bright. Like it was like
this review I read, they were just like, it was like, who filmed this? Like, it just seems so like not like a superhero movie. Like, it feels like someone was like unaware of what these
making.
movies are. Yeah, and it
Well,
was
I
just
think
like
that's become sort of a thing, though. It's like, well, I'm gonna, I'm Taiki Waititi. I'm gonna make a superhero movie, but it's not really gonna be a superhero movie because I have artistic, integrity.
And that might be that works one time, I think, where it's a pleasant surprise, and then I think maybe when you get to the second one, people are like, this one's not as good as the difference between a pleasant surprise and like you gotta like beat the one that had the. I mean, because let's be honest, like the Thor movies, like it wasn't like when he made that third one that like everyone was like, how could he possibly beat those first two Thor movies? Like,
well, the first one was
okay.
The first one was pretty good. Second one, I couldn't tell you a single thing that happens in it.
You know what? I actually don't. I mean, it's much more like a Thor comic.
Which one are you getting ready to defend? The first one or the second one?
The second one.
It's not good.
It's not a great movie, but it's not.
No.
I don't think it's like some terrible monstrosity.
It's not as bad as people want to build it up.
No.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't remember anything about it. I saw it and I kind of
I could say that about every fucking Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Like,
it's true. A lot of them.
I don't know that I remember anything. Yeah.
Who's the bad guy in any Marvel movie? It's like most of the time I'm like, I don't know who the bad guy is.
All right.
What's happening?
Thor is a woman.
If you want to hear more TV and movie talk, become a patron. Go to patreon.com/Around Comics, and you can hear us talk about
Sam Wilson is Captain America, guys. In case you didn't know, he is.
Dude,
he is Captain America.
I want to talk
no
about
other Captain America. No other Captain America ever existed.
I want to talk about Vince Coletta next time we chit chat and how he destroyed Paul Smith's pencils.
No,
Falcon.
Go on some other podcast. Talk about that.
Yeah, talk about that shit.
Go on 11 o'clock comics. You want to talk about that horse shit?
It's fucking terrible what he did to Paul Smith.
We don't care.
It's just that he's doing his job.
He's dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
It's not good.
Leave him alone.
The man rest.
Leave him alone.
He's
fucking dead. And he did more for comics than most everyone else that talks about him. So fuck off.
Yes. Yeah. Yes and no. All right. That is
pro Vince Coletta. We're pro Vince Coletta podcast.
Another podcast. We have all the stuff on Patreon we talked about. K-Billy Super Sounds. We've got Hateful Eight in a couple weeks. Yumi and Will Pfeiffer.
Yes.
Excited.
Yes.
We are 2 movies away from finishing up every Quentin Tarantino movie ever.
Well, until he comes up with the next one.
Yeah, we got one more to go after that. We'll get the band back together. All right, we got all that coming up. Join us next Thursday, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. In the meantime,
in between time,
we'll be everywhere in
and around comics
stuff. And